Thank you for joining eTitle and Orleans PC for today's webinar, Foreclosure from a Realtor's Point of View. My name is Connie Kinzer. It is my pleasure to introduce our esteemed speaker for today, Jessica Morris. Jessica is a licensed attorney in the state of Florida for Orleans PC, as well as member in good standing in the Southern, Middle, and Northern U.S. District Courts. She concentrates her practice in real estate, litigation, foreclosure, and REO. I turn it over to Jessica.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this webinar, Foreclosure from a Realtor's Point of View. Before we get started, just some housekeeping. Again, I'm a licensed attorney, and I'm going to be speaking about how to look at foreclosures from a realtor's perspective. In no way am I trying to offer legal advice or encourage you to offer any sort of legal advice. My goal in this webinar is to educate you and inform you as to how to consider some of the factors that go into foreclosure and the sales of homes that are in foreclosures to hopefully help you when you are considering listing them. So, what can we expect from today's presentation? So 3 things that you're going to learn today are key milestones in a foreclosure action. Then you're going to learn how to use this knowledge to help both you and your client at listing appointments. And as a little bit of extra credit, we're kind of going to go over some of the impacts of natural disasters on foreclosures and some buzzwords that are often tossed around during those times. So foreclosures. Foreclosures in the United States are either going to be judicial or non-judicial. So they're going to vary state by state. Non-judicial states, the lender does not need to go to court to foreclose. In judicial states, the lender is required to initiate an action in the jurisdictionally proper court. So briefly, and we're not going to spend too much time on this, non-judicial foreclosures. If you are in a non-judicial state, that means the lender will not go to court at the start of the process. And every state is different. A lender may send a notice of default together with a notice of sale, or it may send only a notice of sale. In other states, a lender may only need to publish notice in the newspaper and post it on the property. So what you need to remember about non-judicial foreclosures is that they move very, very quickly, and they can conclude within a couple of months or even sooner. So up next, we have the judicial foreclosures. So in judicial foreclosures, they're a bit of a process, and they can be kind of a lot to digest, walking through them in any sort of detail. So for today, and for purposes of you as a realtor wanting to learn what to pay attention to, I've narrowed it down to 3 milestones. So the first milestone will be service. The second is judgment hearing, and the third is the sale date. Now, understanding the procedural process of a foreclosure can be very overwhelming, and keep in mind that's not just for you, that's also for your clients. So let's talk service. What is it? Service is typically what people think of when they get a knock on the door and they're, you see it in the movies and someone hands them a piece of paper saying you've been served. So what it is, homeowners handed a paperwork from a process server, and included in the paperwork is a summons and a complaint. Now, that's typically how people are served. Some people, especially in foreclosures, they are anticipating that they're going to be served and take bad advice and try to evade service, so they don't answer the door. And that can be slightly dangerous, because once the plaintiff has proven that they have attempted to serve that homeowner in person, they are then allowed to serve them via publication in a newspaper. And if the homeowner is not paying attention, they could be served via publication and not even know it. So it's important to pay attention to service because the homeowner is officially notified of the foreclosure. And if the homeowner does nothing, even in a judicial state, the home could be sold in as little as 90 days. So as a realtor, your key takeaway from this is that being served is very stressful and upsetting. And this is usually when a homeowner begins to interview realtors who are knowledgeable in selling while in foreclosure. The second milestone that we're going to talk about is the judgment hearing. So what is it? It's a hearing before a judge where the plaintiff is moving for judgment against the homeowner. Why is this important? The homeowner will be notified when this hearing is going to be held, and at that hearing, a sale date will be set if the plaintiff prevails. So the key takeaway for you as realtors, knowing the date of the judgment hearing and sale date will help you properly strategize when considering and negotiating offers. So what do I mean by that? Once you know a judgment hearing has been set, knowing when that date is and kind of keeping tabs on your timeline. If say you get an offer, a conventional offer, and it is contingent on the sale of a house. You also get an all cash offer as is, but it's a little bit lower. You may want to consider that cash offer a little bit more closely than that conventional offer if time is running out. So it's really important to know this, and it also helps you educate your client on how to properly consider these offers. It's not a typical offer. We're in a foreclosure. It's not a typical residential sale. Third milestone is the sale date. So the sale date is the date the home will be sold at auction to the highest bidder. Auctions are typically online, but sometimes, at least here in the state of Florida, they are actually physically on the courthouse steps. So why is it important? It's important because the homeowner remains the title owner of the house after judgment is entered. So after that judgment hearing, the homeowner still owns the house, but before the sale date. At the sale date, they will no longer be the title owner of the house. So the key takeaway is that the homeowner retains the right to sell the home until the sale date. So the judgment hearing is not the end of the road, which also kind of correlates to our last slide when we were talking about considering different offers. Say if you have a cash offer that's as is and it's a little bit lower and you're really not considering it, if you have a sale date looming, then you might want to take another look at it. So let's get to the relevancy. How does this help you at listing appointments? Well, people are fearful of what they don't know. Understanding these basics boosts your confidence at a listing appointment, and your confidence will help in alleviating your client's fears. So we're going to go over a few common hurdles, some things that pop up during listing appointments when you're dealing with someone who's facing foreclosure. So the three most common misconceptions is, my home is in foreclosure, why would I bother selling it now? Second one, a judgment hearing is already set, isn't it too late to sell now? And the third, when I hear foreclosure, I think short sale. So the first one, a lot of people, they start getting those notices in the mail of default and they stick their head in the sand and they do nothing. And it's very scary and overwhelming. So why would they bother selling now? And one way to respond without giving legal advice is to say that now is the best time to sell, because selling your house and satisfying the mortgage is a win-win for you and your lender. They get paid and you walk away without a foreclosure judgment on your credit report. You have to keep in mind, lenders they don't want your house. So this really is a win-win. And unlike most court cases where there's a winner, a clear winner, this is a situation where everyone can win. And the foreclosure case gets dismissed, the lender's happy, your client's happy, and you're happy, everybody walks away happy. And the second one is, again, a typical person who stuck their head in the sand and they waited and waited and waited, and now a judgment hearing's been scheduled and they're thinking, why would I sell now? Isn't it too late? Well, because of what we just discussed, it is definitely not too late. Until the house is sold at auction, you remain the title owner, which means you still have the opportunity to sell and have that judgment vacated. Because again, the lender does not want your house. Now, this is incredibly important to keep in mind to always keep the plaintiff and the judge informed of what is going on with the sale, because there have been times where a sale date, say, is 5 days, scheduled to close 5 days after the auction. As long as you keep the plaintiff and the court informed, and you can show in good faith that this is an offer that's already been through inspection, it's very, very likely to close, that we just need a few more days. They're very open to consider rescheduling that sale in order to allow that sale, meaning your sale with your client, to go through. Because if your sale goes through, every lien's satisfied and everybody walks away happy. So that is the ideal situation. So always, always, always keep the court informed, keep the plaintiff informed, because the lender does not want your house. The third one, am I going to have to do a short sale? The term short sale is tossed around a lot, and a lot of people, especially newer realtors, don't really know what it is. So I'm going to kind of describe it briefly. Short sales became very popular roughly 10 years ago or so, after the crash in 2008. And what that means is people during that time were taking out mortgages and second mortgages that were actually putting their debt higher than the equity in their house. So for example, they owed $400,000 on a house that's only worth $300,000. That's where the term underwater came into play, where basically what the house is worth is not going to even cover the debt on it. Now, people are very fearful of these, and they automatically assume foreclosure because, or excuse me, short sale and a foreclosure, because that's what happened during 2008. And the market was very, very different back then, and we'll go over that at another time. But currently, people often assume a short sale is needed when their house is in foreclosure. Here's the thing, guys, the market is very, very strong today, which means you don't need a short sale and are projected to pay off your loans and walk away with money in your pocket. So assuming that you properly prepare for your listing appointment and you have a CMA with you, the majority of homes currently are not underwater, which means they have equity in them, which means your client likely, not all the time, but likely will not need to do a short sale. So why would they not attempt to sell their house? It baffles me when I see people come into court who have not bothered to hire a realtor or attempt to sell their house. And then these homes go into auction and a third party purchases them for more than what they owe the bank. A good example I had one time was this sweet little old lady whose husband had passed away, and her house went into foreclosure, and and it went to auction, and the third party that bought it left a surplus, meaning above and beyond what was owed to the lender or to any lien on the property, of around $180,000. So that $180,000 is just sitting in the court registry waiting for someone to claim it. So when the little old lady showed up at court and was encouraged to go talk to the clerk and file her own motion for those surplus funds because she was entitled to them, she was floored and so happy. And it was, I mean, the poor woman was just ecstatic that she was basically going to walk away with $180,000 in her pocket, which is awesome. Don't get me wrong, but I can't help but think if she had been able to properly list it with a talented realtor and sell it for even more money, she could have walked away with even more. So my point is the market is very strong. There's a reason that these third parties are coming to these auctions and purchasing these homes. So go to these listing appointments prepared, have your CMAs. When you meet with these people, you're going to make them feel a lot better if you're able to show them on paper what their house is worth and that they in fact can walk away with money in their pocket and no foreclosure judgment on their credit report. So now we're going to discuss briefly natural disasters and foreclosures, which of course is incredibly relevant today because of COVID. A natural disaster could be, those of us in Florida, a hurricane, tornadoes, flooding, anything depending on where you live, and including COVID. And once a natural disaster or a state of emergency is declared, what happens? So first, we're going to go over the procedural impact on active foreclosures. As soon as that natural disaster is declared in that county or state or wherever it's jurisdictionally proper, the foreclosures essentially go on pause. It's literally as though someone hit a pause button. And what that means for you and your clients, if you are in the middle of selling the house, is it gives you more time. Yes, if it's a natural disaster such as a hurricane, something like that, you may have to redo a few things, a few steps like inspections and whatnot, but it does give you more time to sell the house, and you can take that into consideration when you're considering the different offers that are on the table. So the next thing we're going to talk about is loan modifications, which is also a very common thing that people hear about whenever talking foreclosure. So loan modifications are very tedious. It happens when someone is experiencing a hardship. They lose their job, someone died, something that would give good faith belief that there's a reason that it's now hard for someone to pay their loan. And what they do is, if they are granted a loan modification, it will be a 3-trial payment plan before a permanent modification is put into place. So they essentially have to show in good faith that they can make whatever this new negotiated payment is, that it's affordable and that it's something that they can do for 3 months. And then the lender will consider making it permanent. So my reason in telling you this is it does not hurt to apply for a loan modification while simultaneously listing the house. It's kind of that theory of, for your client's sake, throwing everything at the wall and seeing what sticks. And it doesn't hurt. But in the meantime, you can keep listing and advertising and marketing the house. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is forbearance. Anytime there is a natural disaster, social media always shares inaccurate advice, and it drives me insane. I'm sure you've seen it anytime, especially with COVID. You see people advertising, oh, just call your lender. They'll give you a forbearance. You won't have to pay your mortgage for 3 months, and they'll tack it on the back of the loan. Typically, that is not the case. And that is really, really, really bad advice. Because what happens is, in a real forbearance and a typical forbearance during a natural disaster, those 3 months, you don't have to pay your mortgage timely. But on that 4th month, you owe that 4th month's mortgage plus months 1 through 3. There's just no late fees. So they're giving you time to work out how you're going to come up with that money so that on that 4th month, you can pay your regular monthly mortgage plus the 3 months that you have not paid, without it affecting your credit score and without accumulating any sort of late charges. So it can be helpful if people need, if they know they're getting some money coming in or they're waiting to start a new job. But overall, it inevitably people take this advice and they stop paying their mortgage. And then in the 4th month, they go to make their regular monthly payment to find out that they are now in default. And now foreclosure is happening. And they don't have 4 months of mortgage payments saved up. The majority of people just don't in America. So it can be really, really dangerous to advertise forbearance as though they can just go 3 months without making their payment and then just pick up like nothing happened on that 4th month and keep making regular monthly payments. That is not how it works. So it's really important to know that and to be able to educate and encourage your clients to read anything that is sent to them from their lender or servicer regarding a forbearance or even a loan modification. Encourage them to read the fine print because it'll all be in there. So that is it on forbearance. And that sums up our webinar today. And I appreciate you all being here. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly. My email address is listed here. And on another note, I know that we briefly touched upon the market in 2008 through 2011. I know a lot of realtors are panicking right now. They're concerned that we're going to have this happen all over again. They're worried about their jobs. They're worried about the state of the economy. They're worried about the housing market. This is not 2008. It's very different. There are a lot of factors that go into it, and I will go into this at a later date at another webinar, so stay tuned for that. And hopefully I'll be able to alleviate some of your own fears regarding the current state of the market. So thanks for coming today, and I hope you learned something, and good luck on your listing appointments.